Today's Fenway Rundown. I'm Chris Cotillo here with Sean McAdam, and we have, I think, officially the newest member of the Boston Red Sox, Tristan Gray, kind enough to join us as we record this Thursday afternoon. It'll air Friday. 2 days ago, Tristan, you were acquired by the Red Sox in a trade, sending Luis Guerrero out at Tampa. I know it's probably been a whirlwind 48 hours for you. We appreciate your time. Just take us there to start. What that day was like for you and your reaction to another new organization this point in the offseason.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I knew, when the days are coming up in terms of like when teams have to protect players, and whenever you have the career that I have of kind of the fringe guy, there's always just like, man, like what's going to happen tomorrow? Try to put in the back of your mind. So I was actually outside doing some Christmas decorations for my wife, and I got the call, and so she actually overheard. She's like, "All I heard was the Red Sox. What does that mean?"
Hmm.
And I was like, I just got traded, and so called my parents and all that, and everybody's just super shocked that it was the Red Sox. I've kind of moved around small market teams, so this is the first, big market, big media centric team that I've been a part of. So it's definitely a lot more of a whirlwind than whenever I got picked up by the A's or signed with the Marlins. So it's been pretty crazy.
And who do you like on a day like that? Who do you talk to from the front offices? Do you talk to Craig Breslow? Are there other people at the Red Sox reaching out?
Player development reached out, a couple hitting coaches.
Hmm.
Alex Cora called me later that day just saying welcome to the family and excited to have you. So it's been nice.
And what I know those are super, initial conversations over 2 days, but what, if any, expectations do you have about, your role and what you're going to bring to this team?
I think one thing that Cora mentioned is like, dude, we have a lot of guys that come up and down from Worcester and that help out the team. So whatever role he's like, whatever role it ends up being, just know that you can impact this ball club. So that's my focus is, taking care of my business each day, no matter where I'm at, and trying to win.
Tristan, you've shown a lot of positional flexibility in your career. You've played all over the infield. Is there a position that you regard as your best, where you're most comfortable? And I don't think you've played a lot of outfield, if any, in pro ball, but is that something you'd be willing to try, or has that been, broached at all in your initial conversations with the organization?
So I grew my favorite position, most comfortable, is middle of the infield. Um, I actually grew to like third the more that I got to play it. But the challenging part of playing all the different positions is you just don't get comfortable. And so that I actually learned from a buddy of mine that I play with, Miles Mastrobuoni, who was with Seattle or is with Seattle. He's like, dude, on your days off, like you have to take ground balls everywhere. You have to, that's just something you don't get to take some time off or get some rest. It's very much you have to get the work in. So I think that I credit a lot of that getting better at it to him. As far as the outfield, I played outfield my sophomore year at college. I played left and right field all year for the most part. And I played a couple of spring training games with the Rays. They were like, "Hey, we need you to play outfield." I think I had an outfield assist throwing out Rushman at home plate, which I know it's a catcher, but count it, right? So I'm
Yeah, and
definitely willing
he's
to do
pretty
it.
fast for a catcher.
So yeah, I'm definitely open to doing that, and actually have heard that that's a possibility, and that they're not afraid to do that. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, this team and really throughout the game, we've seen a shift really, even as the rosters expand to 26. It seems like, with 13 pitchers and only four position players on the bench, people want versatility. They want guys that can move around, who can help out either mid game or defensive replacements, or you don't get a lot of double switches now that both leagues have the DH. But it seems like there are opportunities to get yourself a pretty good career out of being a guy that can help out all over the place. Do you see that as kind of a path and an opening for you?
absolutely, I think a lot of people get caught up in like wanting to be the starting shortstop, the starting first baseman. And I think just realistically, you just want to be on the team and want to play and win. And I've just always been told, like, if you can do that, that's how you stick around in this game. And so that's what I've focused on. The Rays were super helpful in that. I remember in Double A, it was me, Taylor Walls, Vidal Brujan. We just had and we had a system of, all right, you're playing this position this day. And so I played like all four positions in 4 different days. So you just kind of get used to it. But I think it's 100% valuable to a team, especially now with all the matchups and having to relievers having to face three batters and the amount of moves you can make and all that stuff. I think it really does play into the game now.
You talked about moving around on the field. You've also moved around a lot in the industry. This is your, by my count, fifth organization.
Mhm.
You got into the big leagues with three others, plus a stint with the White Sox in the minor leagues. How difficult has that been? You know, maybe not having the kind of job security and the ability to say, okay, you know, I'm here, I'm going to be here a few years, I'm going to get a multi-year commitment from somebody, and we're going to have some stability off the field. The constant moving around. What sort of challenge has that been like for you and your family?
Um, I started dating my wife in when I was in AAA, and it was actually during 2020. So where no way was playing, at least at the time. And I said, I know that this is nice. However, I play baseball and I don't get a lot of time at home. And I was like, all right, are you sure you're ready? Are you sure you're down? You're sure you're down? And so she's been amazing, and I think it's been more tough for her than it is for myself. But I think a lot of it is just wanting to play. And although moving around is tough, playing the game is what I love to do, and I love competing. I love playing at the highest level. So and now that I've made my first goal was to make it to the big leagues, but now I really want to play playoff baseball. I just want to experience it. I want to play in October. And I haven't been on a team, the Rays were probably the closest that I've been. And so now getting the opportunity to be with the Red Sox and knowing that is the standard is not only just being in the playoffs, but playing, in the World Series, is something that I really look forward to.
I mean, what have you taken away from, different organizations? Have you, guys, Rob Refsnyder, obviously a guy, here who's kind of been early in his career was in a similar boat, playing for different teams, but you with, Pittsburgh, Tampa, the A's, the Marlins, the White Sox briefly this year back to Tampa. Is it taking the good and the bad from each of those experiences and kind of molding the player you want to be from all the different voices that you've had so far?
Absolutely. I think so I was with the Rays for 6 years, and
Hmm.
then I had always heard, especially the way that they do their AAA, it's a lot of free agent pitchers. So I got to talk to a lot about different orgs before I ever left, and they just told me like the grass is not always greener. Like it's not like you aren't guaranteed to like it somewhere else better than here. So just enjoy where you're at. And I've definitely, been in different clubhouses, and the winning clubhouses, and the ones that aren't so winning. But what I did from that was, all right, why, like, what is that energy, and why is it that way? And then how do I go into these different clubhouses and be part of the player that pushes it in the right direction? Even if my role is as small as it is, what can I do and how do I carry myself to impact, where I'm at the time? So I definitely taken the good and the bad from each one, and moving forward, I'm just, yeah, focused on impacting a clubhouse wherever I'm at.
As you move into this new one in Fort Myers, when you get there in a few months, who on the Red Sox do you already have a relationship with? Obviously, you share an agent and Barrett Arthur with Jaron Duran.
Mhm.
Is that a guy you know well? There are other guys on the team that you've gotten to know over the years.
Yeah, Jaron, I talked to him whenever we played him in Tampa. He was super pumped for me, and I was very thankful. And obviously, I think the world of him. I think he's a great player and a great human being. I also played against Connor Wong in high school and in
Hmm.
college, summer ball, of those things. So I know him. I haven't played too much minor league games against the Red Sox farm system. So those are the only two guys just by playing them either in the big leagues or just growing up.
Uh, what about the Cape League experience? Obviously, you're a guy who shined there with Falmouth almost a decade ago now.
Crazy.
Just what did you kind of learn about the area, about New England, spending a couple summers, and obviously a lot of guys in the big leagues have done that, but
Mhm.
you played a lot for the Commodores back then. So, what do you remember about those days?
Man, I loved him. I loved every bit of playing there. Obviously, our manager at the time was Trundy, who passed away, but he was awesome. I enjoyed both summers there. We took trips up to Boston. I love the history. I love history. My wife was a history teacher, so seeing all those things is amazing. Um, Man, I just loved the upfrontness of everybody. My host family was amazing. Not, they would just tell me how it was, and yeah, I'm actually looking forward to reconnecting with them whenever I get to go up there, whether it be in Boston or in Worcester.
The you mentioned being able to visit Boston. Did that include a trip to Fenway? Sometimes Cape League teams go, some
hmm
play games or take BP while the Red Sox are on the road. Were you able to go to a game? Have you been exposed that way? I don't think you have as a major leaguer, right? You have not
Yeah,
been at
I
Fenway.
haven't
Uh,
been there yet for that.
yeah, even as a spectator.
I don't think I've ever been to a game as a spectator. I went for a workout. We did it super early in the morning. We did all this stuff. We hit BP, shagged. I did an interview there just with the Commodores, and they were talking about what's your favorite part. And a lot of my teammates made fun of me for saying that I just love the shagging aspect, not
Hmm.
actually taking BP. And in BP, you're just everything's happening so fast. You're trying to do well, maybe you don't do well. So I like just being in the outfield catching fly balls and just looking around and being able to take in the scenery. And I knew at the time how special it was then. So now I have been really wanting to make that trip to play at Fenway during the regular season. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, some of the other ballparks you've been to are, not exactly historical landmarks like the Tropicana Field. This is kind of a legacy
That is
ballpark.
that is very insulting to Steinbrenner Field, which has a
Uh,
rich major league
yeah, well,
tradition now.
that's true. We
Yeah.
we enjoyed that in our two visits this year. What kind of feedback have you gotten about what it's like to play in Fenway from teammates
Mhm.
or guys that you've spent time with in the minors who've had the opportunity? What's the message they've given you?
I think almost every message that I gotten from guys on the Rays for leaving was, "You're gonna love it there. It is a sick place to play." Josh Lowe is one of my good friends. I'm pretty sure he made his debut there, and he said it's you can't match it. Well, I got to play at Wrigley this past year for the first time, and I asked him like, "Hey, like compare, like give me where this ranks," and he's like, "Dude, Fenway is just." It's that a step above just the atmosphere, the history behind it. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah. Most of the time, Tristan, guys who have your profile as a utility guy or someone who can move around don't always have the kind of power that you've displayed at times at the minor league level. You had not long ago at AAA, you had 33 home runs in a season. That's a lot for a guy who plays a number of different positions. How did you access that power that year? You had another year, I think, where you had 17 home runs. And how valuable might that be in this role with this team?
Yeah, I learned it um, a little bit in Double A. A lot of it was just figuring out what pitches to swing at and not chasing and being okay with doing or taking your chances early on in the count. And then two in 2020, before everything shut down, I was talking with Brandon Lau, and he got me on this core velocity belt, just getting to this back hip thing, and I was like, all right, like you're obviously a really good hitter. I'm just going to try it out, and that's when everything changed. Whenever I, started getting that the back hip and using the ground and all that stuff, that's whenever the power, started coming. But then also the swing and miss came with that. And so now it's just been a focus on, all right, how can I do that without striking out and giving competitive at bats?
Right.
And I think that's the one thing that I noticed watching the World Series this past year with the Blue Jays of just maybe it wasn't obviously they hit some homers, but I think they wore down the pitching with the quality of at bats. If they didn't get the damage done before two strikes, then they put that to a side and just really try to put the ball in play. And I think that that's what I can bring to the clubhouse, and that's my goal is to be able to do damage before two strikes, and then if I do get to two strikes, still being able to get on base or giving a quality at bat.
This is a question that Sean's gonna have absolutely no idea what it means, but it's a conversation I've had a few times with Cooper Criswell, who has spent a lot of time in Durham. I went to school down there, not in Durham, thank God, in Chapel Hill. But I have to ask, you spent a lot of time there. How many
Mhm.
nights did you spend at Shooters, and did you ever get in the cage?
I stayed away from shooters.
That's a
Um,
phenomenal, phenomenal decision.
yes, I was a little nervous, honestly, to go out in Durham and in the area. I know that it's super nice, but after dark, I heard something about the train tracks or anything like that. I was just going to stay away from it. So
What was it like? Obviously that's such a good, minor league town where you played a lot of games that were there for a couple full seasons. You mentioned some of the teammates coming through. What was it like, having that experience and, being on the same AAA team for, kind of full years at a time?
it was very special. I think what made a lot of what made it special was the guys that we all came up together from high A, double A, and then to triple A. And we were really good. We were winning group. Um, and so that along with you're playing in the minor leagues and you're like, okay, I want to play in front of big crowds. Well, Durham brings that. It is
Hmm.
very much they love baseball. I've played in a couple other places, and while there might be a lot of people there, no one's really engaged in the game. But in Durham, if you're in the third inning and you're in a bases loaded one out and you get a double play, they are very much cheering, standing on their feet, or knowing when big plays are happening early on in the game. So I think it's just an incredible baseball town. I think Jacoby, who does the on-field for the Bulls, as far as entertaining the crowd in between innings, I just think everything that they do there is just so max like makes it the best for fans to go and enjoy as a family setting.
Oh, you mentioned this a little earlier to pivot back to baseball. You talked about, being a fringe guy and being happy, where not being the starting shortstop. What in your mind is the next step at this point in your career where, you know, again, from the fringe to a guy who stays up for the entire year and contributes to a winning team? Like, what are the steps that you feel like you need to take?
So I think I learned a lot from this past year of being the guy that doesn't have to play every day, but whenever I get into the game, none of that matters and I have to perform. And I think I struggled with it at first. But then I kind of figured out a routine to where, you're watching the game, you're understanding the flow of it, and if the manager calls on you, this is how I'm going to approach each at bat, and or even if it's in the field making the play. I think if I can just do that and be able to hopefully get enough at bats, and show that I am capable of doing it, I think that's the only way to get to the next step. But no one's going to hand you anything. You don't just get a deal here and there just because of um, willy-nilly. I think you can do it. It's proving that you can do it and handling your business the right way and being accountable. If a manager can be sure or know that you're capable of being put in the situation, I think that's the only thing you can do in order to get to that next step.
Tristan, you strike me as a guy that follows the game pretty closely. Talked about watching the World Series. Not all active players are doing that every year. Wondering what your knowledge is of Red Sox history, and if you have a favorite Red Sox player from growing up, and if you could meet a Red Sox player who is not currently on the team, somebody from the past, somebody from your youth, who would that be?
Oh man, I don't know. I know obviously the major stories, just being a baseball fan. I remember watching um, Matt Carpenter was on the Cardinals. He went to my high school. His dad coached my dad. I kind of have a personal relationship with him. And my dad, we were watching the World Series, and he said, just don't be a strikeout for the last out because that's all they play on the replays. You just
Mhm.
don't want to continuously see that. And of course, that's exactly what happened. And so that's one of the Red Sox memories that I have, not because of the Red Sox, but just because he was the final out of the World Series. Um, but if I had to go back, man, One, I mean, it's got to be Garcia Parra, right? Just I always think about the clock and how he would not have, or it would have been an interesting thing to see him
Right.
adjust to,
Yep.
because I had to shorten my routine and be cautious of that. So I would definitely ask him, what would he have done? But that's the one guy I would definitely want to meet.
In the pool, I had you guess. My guess was you're going to go with fellow Rice alum Brock Holt, who won a World
Oh
Series
yeah,
here too. So, I mean, there's a good history for guys that play all over the field and went to that esteemed university in Boston.
absolutely.
Do you have any relationship with him at all?
I don't. Rice is super interesting. I don't think a lot of guys go back.
Hmm.
At least whenever I was in college, I didn't see him there. But I would love to get in touch with him for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he has a big role in the Jimmy Fund, which is the team's official charity to battle uh, cancer in children, and so he's around the ballpark quite a bit. You'll run into him.
Awesome.
You're gonna have
Yeah,
a class reunion there.
that's right. An
Perfect.
alumni meetup. Well, Tristan, we really appreciate the time. We will see you in Fort Myers in a few months, and best of luck the rest of the offseason.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Tristan. Look forward to meeting you in person.